In Liberia, provisional results are trickling in from polling centres across the country following yesterday's peaceful general election in the West African country. Results are expected from 5,390 polling units in over 2,000 centres across the 15 counties that make up the country. The first round of leading contenders are the current Vice President Joseph Nyuma Boakai of the ruling Unity Party, George Manower of the Coalition for Democratic Change, and Alexander Benedict Cummings of the Alternative National Congress. No single candidate is expected to gain more than 50% of the vote, and the two candidates with the most votes is expected to fight a second round within a month. The National Elections Commission of Liberia says the exercise was generally successful, but some political parties have expressed reservations about the process. And at least 5 people have been arrested in Delhi, India, after a video emerged showing what appears to be a mob severely beating a Nigerian man. Police in the Indian capital say they have also detained the Nigerian man, whom some neighborhood residents accuse of theft. Chief spokesperson of the Delhi police says it is a case of attempted burglary, and those living in the house were alerted, caught him and beat him up. There has been a spate of attacks on African nationals living in India. In March, 5 Nigerian students were attacked by crowds, while another was beaten by a mob inside a shopping mall living in Noida near Delhi. Well, 6 months ago, African ambassadors in India criticized the government for not doing enough to stop a string of alleged racist attacks on Africans in Delhi. And yet another Nigerian has died at the hands of the police in South Africa. According to eyewitnesses, 25-year-old Ibrahim Badmus was allegedly handcuffed, tortured and suffocated while being interrogated by about 3 policemen at his home in the Vale area near Johannesburg. Our Johannesburg Bureau Chief, Betty Libya, has more.
This is a scenario that everybody hoped will not be repeated, especially given the recent happenings. But here we are once again, this time in Vanderbilt Park, about 200 kilometers from Johannesburg, where an outraged community is bemoaning the killing of yet another Nigerian, allegedly by the police. It's a sad day on D Forest Street, Vanderbilt Park. Ibrahim Olamilekan Badmus, a Nigerian man, was just 25 years old. He lived here with Steve Lumbwe, a Congolese.
I find Omo, my tenant, was on handcuff. On top of him, there was a plastic where they put pepper spray on him. So what happened is I asked the police, why are you doing this to him? They say, no, he's a drug dealer, he must take out the drugs. I'm like, no, this guy doesn't sell drugs. They're like, no, you are a small boy, go pull, because I was in my shorts. I just woke up. They're like, you are a small boy, go outside. After a little while, I went back inside, they called me. My tenant was on handcuff. He started telling me, Steve, I can't breathe, you see. I started fighting with them, trying to help the guy. The other one took me out as well. So when I went back inside, Omo was sleeping, looking at them, you see. Then the police guy is like, no, he just fainted. We're going to call the police, the ambulance.
Nigeria's Consul General was at the scene calling for calm while investigations are being carried out. So did the commander of the Vanderbilt Park Police Station, Brigadier Nikiwe Hoane.
I want you to give the law its time to investigate this. And those that have seen, those that are saying we know that this person was killed by X, let's make double sure that we provide the statements. And I'm repeating, it is not South African Police Services that is going to be investigating this murder. It is IPID.
As the scene became more heated, the Nigerian mission officials proceeded to the police station with 2 eyewitnesses to probably help in the investigations. Meanwhile, a gathering of Nigerians is expected at a nearby stadium on Wednesday to discuss the next steps on the matter. From Vanderbilt Park, the VAR, South Africa, Betty Libya, Channels Television News.
And more stories from South Africa. At least 8 people have died in the country after a devastating storm hit the country. The Weather Service officials described it as a supercell thunderstorm, which is characterized by a deep rotating updraft like a tornado, large hailstones and strong winds. According to a local newspaper, winds of 70 kilometers per hour pummeled KwaZulu-Natal province on Tuesday. The hashtag Durban storm has been trending in the country. Togo's government has banned weekday protests. Since August, the opposition has been holding big demonstrations against Togo's President Farouk Gnassingbe, demanding political reforms. Home Affairs Minister says there have been calls for violence and civil disobedience, including attacks on security forces during opposition demonstrations. And future demonstrations will not be allowed, on the streets, only rallies in specific places. President Gnassingbe has been in power since 2005. He took office after the death of his father, Gnassingbe Eyadema, who had been at the helm of power for 38 years. Protesters are also calling for what they described as the end of the Gnassingbe dynasty. And the European Union is seeking to reopen its embassy in Libya. This is pending security conditions, offering further political support for the Tripoli government struggling to establish control. According to a draft joint statement, EU leaders will announce at their summit in Brussels, October the 19th to the 20th, that they encourage work underway to rapidly establish a permanent EU presence in Libya. While the statement makes clear no such move is imminent, officials say it would be conditional on improving the security situation on ground. The EU moved its mission to neighboring Tunisia in mid-2014 as security worsened in the country amid escalating fights between rival factions since the 2011 fall of longtime leader Muammar Gaddafi. The EU has also engaged increasingly with Sarraj, especially as it sought Libya's help in curbing the flow of African refugees and migrants crossing the Mediterranean for Europe. And still to come on the program, Kenyan plus-size women take center stage at the 2017 Plus Size Fashion Weekend. To join us again.